What is up, guys? This is the fifth part in our Kalman Filter series where we are finally building a Kalman filter from scratch in Python. This will be a 1D Kalman filter. This series is built in collaboration with Mathias Mantelli. All the previous videos you've seen are a product of us working together to see how we can present the Kalman filter in the best possible way. The links to our profiles are in the description below. If you remember, before this part, we actually had 4 parts in this Kalman filter series where we started from the conceptual idea of what a Kalman filter is all the way up to the formal equations of the Kalman filter. And these were the final formal equations we got after actually deriving them. The first 2 equations are for your predict step and the next 3 are for your update step. I will not go into the details of these equations again. If you're not sure about these equations, please look at the previous parts of this series. As I said, we have these formal equations ready. We want to implement them from scratch in Python to build a 1D Kalman filter in this video. Broadly speaking, as we've discussed in the previous video, a Kalman filter has 2 main steps: predict and update. Before we start understanding how to build these equations in code, let's understand our problem statement. Let's say a body is moving in 1D space in a particular trajectory. We want to estimate the position of that object, but we of course don't really know what that object's trajectory is mathematically. We want to estimate that. And all we have is one sensor, which is quite noisy with of course Gaussian noise, and we want to estimate the position. This effectively is our problem statement. With this problem statement in mind, let's look at our equations more closely, both for your motion model and for your observation model. In this example, we will use a constant acceleration model, which means that you will have constant acceleration in your motion model. Our state vector will be position and velocity. So it will be x and x dot. Using simple laws of physics, a body moving in a certain direction in 1D space is affected by velocity and acceleration. So just using physics, you have these 2 equations for your position and your velocity. This together is your motion model. Now let's represent this in matrix notation, and that is something we will implement in our code. So these 2 linear equations for your position and velocity can be written in matrix form as this, right? So this equation is important because if you look at your final Kalman filter equations, you have different matrices like A, B and C. A and B are used in your motion model and C is used in your observation model. From this equation, the following matrix is A and this one is B. Now that's all about your motion model. What about your observation model? Your observation equation is the following. You can interchangeably use C and H. I am using C in our code, but since I got these equations from a book, they've used H instead of C. But they are interchangeable in our code base. Since we have a measurement device that measures the position, this will be your C or H value. It will just be 1 and 0 here. So that effectively is C for you in your Kalman filter equations. At this point, we have A, B and C, or AT, BT and CT in these equations. What else do we need? We need RT and QT, that is for your noise. RT is your process noise covariance matrix and QT is your measurement noise. To get RT, which is your process noise covariance matrix, you will already have your standard deviation for your control, let's say your acceleration. Based on that standard deviation, you can get RT. Since our state includes both position and velocity, this will be RT. And the standard deviation of your position is the standard deviation of your acceleration multiplied by delta t square by 2 because you are relating position and acceleration. On the other hand, standard deviation of your velocity is associated with your standard deviation of your acceleration by delta t because you are now associating velocity and acceleration. So effectively, this will be RT. What about your measurement noise? Well, in this case, your covariance of your measurement noise Q is scalar, and that is equal to the variance of your measurement noise. Okay, so looks like we have all the matrices we need to implement these equations. Now let's go to the code and implement all of this. So here I've actually prepared your Kalman filter code already. This is also on GitHub, so you can check it out. The link will be in the description of this video, but let's go through this line by line. These 2 are just imports we'll need. You create a class called Kalman filter with both predict and update steps. Right now we are implementing these formulas, and towards the end of this code base, you will see that an example is implemented which uses an instance of this class Kalman filter. Now the constructor takes in dt delta t, which decides the time period between 2 iterations. U is your control signal. In this case, it will be acceleration because we've decided that our state includes position and velocity and your control is acceleration. Sigma A is the standard deviation for your acceleration. Sigma Z is the standard deviation of your measurement. Now we're saving all of these values here because we will need them. These are all member variables now. Now let's look at A. As I said before, A is this matrix in your standard notation, and this is just an implementation of that. Similarly, you can see that B is just an implementation of what you saw. R is something I've also shown, and Q is something I have also shown. And again, C was also shown to you. So all these values were already shown to you in this video. These are just implementation of what you saw. We need identity matrix in this part of the equation. Self.x is just the initial value of x, which is your state. This x is not just the position. This x is position and velocity. That's why you have two elements in your matrix here. P is actually the covariance of your state, which in this case is position and velocity combined. The final task for us here in each iteration is to estimate the value of self.x and self.p, where p is the covariance matrix of x. Again, x includes both position and velocity. Now, as I said, a Kalman filter has predict and update steps. So let's see both the methods for predict and update. You first see your predict step. Here you clearly see that what we see in our mathematical equations is what is implemented in code. I don't think I should go into the details of what a dot product is because this should be clear for you right now. So these are the two equations for your predict steps. Let's now go to the update step. In your update step, of course, you only have 3 equations, but you see 4 here because I have divided the first into 2. S you see is actually this part of the equation, and based on that, we get K. It is just a better way of writing code instead of just writing everything in one line. Now these 3 lines correspond to these update steps here. This is again straightforward when you start mapping this piece of code with the equations you see right now in the video. Okay, so this is actually a Kalman filter in 1D. That is it. You don't need anything else. But let's also see it in action. For that, we create an example and then create an instance of this Kalman filter and see how it is predicting whatever state you want to estimate. This is your main function that does everything. You set your time difference between 2 iterations to 0.1 right now, and that is how the body will propagate in time because the body's position is connected with velocity and acceleration in time, right? So this is your duration between 2 iterations. This is just a list you are creating for different time instances. This is the ground truth. The Kalman filter will not know what this ground truth is. We will use this to generate measurements. We will include noise to generate measurements. But the idea is we have these real x values, and when we get the final result, we will also plot the real x values to see how close the Kalman filter is to these real values. Now the value of real underscore x, which is the real position of the body, is associated with time like this. So with this, you are generating a list of real x values. U is the control signal, which is your acceleration in the Kalman filter. We set it to 1. Sigma A is your standard deviation for your acceleration, which is set to 0.25. Sigma Z is your standard deviation for your measurement, which is set to 2.0. Bear in mind that these 3 values are decided by us. We can play around with this. In fact, we should play around with these to get a good Kalman filter estimate. Now, based on this, you create an instance of your Kalman filter. You give it dt, which is delta t, U, which is your control signal, which is acceleration in this case, sigma A and sigma Z. Now your Kalman filter is ready to be used, but what does it need? It actually needs update. Now I didn't talk about it before, but your update step needs your measurement value. That's why you see this is the measurement value here, right? So we need to generate measurement values for your update step for each iteration. We also log your predictions and your measurements. So both your predict step and update step will have values logged so that you can also see them in the graph later on. And this is actually the entire loop, which is using your Kalman filter instance. The first thing we do is we look at each real x value in your real underscore x list. And from that, we generate your measurement values. These measurement values are the only thing that we provide to the Kalman filter. Everything else is right now a part of the Kalman filter, because as you know, the Kalman filter only uses 2 things: an internal motion model, which is internal to it, and measurement values for each time instance. So at this point, because the internal motion model is already initialized when you create an instance of the Kalman filter, you only need to provide measurement values for each time instance. Now you see that we are using c.item0, which basically relates the position, the real position value, with the measurement value. Plus you have some random noise. So this line actually maps to this equation you see right now. And that is something we've already seen. As I said before, C and H are used interchangeably. In some books you will find H. I've used C here. Now we are appending these values because we also want to see these measurement values in a graph later on for better visualization. But this is not a functional piece of code per se. Now, what are we doing here? We are actually predicting the value based on the internal motion model. So this line does not really use any measurement values because this is the predict step. The next line is the update step for this iteration where you are giving the value Z. So this is the measurement value for this current iteration. So if you think about it, these two steps together make up your Kalman filter right now because you're doing predict and update and you're doing it iteratively. So for each iteration. Now here we are just appending the final value you get, which is x_kf, which is the predicted value in your predictions because we will see the visualization later on. So this is your loop. This is what a Kalman filter is doing iteratively, where lines 61 and 62 are the core lines for your predict and update step. Everything else here is just either preparation, which is line 58, or line 60 and 64 for logging that data. Now this part of the code is just for plotting whatever we got. When you are done with all the real x values, that means you are done with your loop, you will have your predictions and measurement lists populated completely, and now you want to plot them. Here the measurement values are plotted in blue, the real values, which is real_x, is plotted in yellow, and the last one, which is the actual prediction or the actual estimate in this case, is plotted in red. And we want to see how our predictions or estimates actually do as compared to the real values which are plotted using real_x. Now you have to understand that I'm using the word predict, but previously we've discussed that predict is just a part of your predict step and then you have an estimate. Because we don't really need multiple variables for your predictions and estimate, we're using just one variable for prediction, but the idea is that this prediction becomes an estimate once you are done with your update step for each iteration. So that's why the variable naming is interchangeable. But this does not mean that prediction is equal to estimate in concept. Prediction is only after your predict step and estimation is only once you're done with your update step. Now the last two lines are just for running this main function. Okay, so now let's run this Kalman filter and see what happens. This is what you see. As I said before, the blue one is for your measurement. That's why it has a lot of noise. You added Gaussian noise to your real value. The real value is the one shown in yellow. And the red one is your actual estimate. And you clearly see that the red values are very close to your real values. Although the Kalman filter has no idea about what the real values are, right? The only thing it has is some initialized values of your standard deviation and the control value, which is your control signal acceleration that is constant because we are using a constant acceleration model, and it has your measurement values. That's all there is when it comes to giving information to the Kalman filter. The Kalman filter estimates the value of your state quite close to the real values without even knowing what the real values are, right? And that is the entire idea of a Kalman filter anyway. Now you can play around a lot with this Kalman filter, change the initial values, change the value of your standard deviation to see what changes. I will give you one example of that right now. Kalman filter here has an initial value of 0 and 0 for both your velocity and your position. Let's change this to an atrocious value. I've changed this to 1000, which is an atrocious value, and let's see what happens with this because the initial value is so wrong that maybe the Kalman filter screws up, right? Let's see. Well, you see, the initial value is extremely bad, but based on the internal motion model and the measurement values, the Kalman filter quickly corrects it. So it shows that the Kalman filter is so robust that even if the initial estimate is stupid, it will correct itself. This is a clear example of how robust a Kalman filter can be. Now you can do a lot with this. You can change the value of your standard deviation. You can change the value of u, which is your acceleration in this case, but in general a control variable, and see what can be done. So essentially this is a Kalman filter in Python from scratch. I've added this code in my GitHub repo. The link is in the description of this video. Feel free to check it out, play around, and try to understand the Kalman filter. There is of course a reason that I did not spend a lot of time explaining this code because a lot of it is just basic NumPy usage, and it is a nice idea to spend some time looking at the equations, implementing it yourselves, and trying it out. So I strongly recommend playing with the code base I showed you to see what changes when you change some initial values of the Kalman filter, when you change the control signal of the Kalman filter, when you play around with standard deviations, and you will have a better idea on how a Kalman filter actually works. So I hope this video was useful to you in understanding how to implement a 1D Kalman filter from scratch in Python. I'd love to know what you think about this video and about this series in general. I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.